Hi guys, my name is Itimi and you're welcome to another episode of Founders Connect. Here I have conversations with amazing entrepreneurs and operators in the African tech ecosystem. Today I'm having a conversation with someone that you will know from your childhood, if you are not Gen Z though.
Wow.
Because I mean for this interview,
wow,
you're like, you guys know,
wow.
and some Gen Zs in the room are like, not really. So if you're old enough, you probably remember this face. I'm having a conversation today with Peter Bunor Jr. Just to go with Junior.
Not
Not
really.
anymore.
Yeah, but that is late now, so there's no need to.
Oh, so sorry
feels like
about
there's no
that.
need to keep
So it's
that
like,
part.
and now I'm the Peter Bunor
Yeah,
here.
so now I'm the one. So.
Amazing. So he's the founder and CEO of Field Intelligence, and we're going to learn all about his childhood, being a child actor, then his tech career. So
Wow.
let's get into it.
Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Itimi, a change maker, professional, and creative who is passionate about growing people and growing businesses. Like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and please always share my videos. It promises to always be impactful and insightful.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So co-founder.
Okay.
Co-founder with two other founders, Michael and Justin. We met in a very, very interesting way. I guess it's probably one of the randomest things that's happened in my life. So I was working in government at some point. This was a couple of years ago. And the day after I left, I was kind of sad, trying to figure out what to do with my life. So I reached out to my uncle and he's like, look, I'm at a conference at the Hilton in Abuja. Come, there's free food and there's sharks. Come. So I literally went there just to eat the food and drink. Then I walked into the hall and there was this pale white guy that was on the side. He looked as bored as I was. And somehow
we connected.
we just connected that we're bored in this place. So, and we ended up standing, I think it was at lunch break or something, which was the main reason why I was there. We started talking and it just turned out, we just hit it off. We had similar interests, we had fairly similar backgrounds. He grew up in America, I grew up here. We just had things that were in common and we spent the rest of most of that day talking. And then he called someone else, like, dude, there's someone else you should meet. And he calls Justin over. And that's how the three of us
Just met.
It's like, it was super random. I shouldn't have
Just
been
because
there.
you went for food.
Just because I went there for food and shacks. So those things always win. So that's literally the origin. And the couple took a while. It took maybe 2 years before we eventually started working together. But that's how we met and became friends and just used to go up and down together.
Okay, so we'll come to how you guys started the company,
Sure.
but let's talk about your childhood first.
I was trying to dodge myself.
Nah, that's the main part of this fest. But yeah, tell me about growing up. Tell me about having an actor that was very popular. Tell me about being a child popular actor as well. Just all of it.
Yeah, I think growing up for me was very interesting because I had it was not typical. It was filled with a lot of travel, a lot of reading. So I really like to travel and I really like to read. So those two things combined together growing up there. I think it takes a bit of time to register, for example, that one of your parents is popular. You don't.
Because you're just a kid. And so.
Yeah, and it didn't really matter. I'm just trying to play games and do my normal things. But I think eventually I figured that part. But for how I got into acting myself, it was completely by chance. I had acted a few times in school plays. You know all those normal school plays that you do all those random things. I'd done a few of those. And I think my dad was involved in a film at the time. And they needed a kid about my age. I think I was maybe 6. I remember him saying, look, I have a son. I don't know if he can act. He acts in school. But,
Let's try him out.
Let's put him in front of a camera and see if it's different. And they tried. I had a good time. I enjoyed doing it. I remember when I was done that day, I really enjoyed doing it. But it was very basic stuff they told me to say now. So it didn't make any sense to me. Like, they made it seem like it was something special. It was something like, say, contaminated water or food. That was my first line. Like, this is normal stuff. But after that, it continued and I kept doing more of it, started enjoying it some more. And that's how, started from just not doing anything related to that and just diving right into it.
And how long did you do that for? And why didn't you just say, you know what, let me just continue acting?
I did that for a couple of years. I don't remember how many years, to be fair. But a couple of things started happening. Some good, some not so good. One of it was I remember a couple of people telling me, something around you are too smart to be an actor, something along those lines. I got a couple of those. But there were also things that happened that kind of scared me. So one time we went to this city for someone's wedding. I don't know what got around. We went to see my uncle, he was a police officer at the time. What got around the barracks area that I was there. And it just turned into a humongous crowd. I mean, I was way younger, and so just turning around and seeing a mass of people screaming my name was kind of terrifying. It really scared me. I'm not going to. almost kind of freaked out. At some point, they had to just get me into a vehicle and just get me out of there because I kind of panicked. And so it led to bouts of trying to figure out, okay, is this what the rest of my life was going to be about?
Right.
But I was younger still, so I wasn't sure. But I also knew I had a bunch of other interests. There were things I wanted to try out. But again, like most young people, I didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest. So acting was there, but I knew somewhere in my head, all of these things kind of just started combining. Yeah. And then I remember having a conversation with my dad one time, and he goes, look, take some time out, you can stop for a bit, focus on school, do all of these things, and then we can have a conversation afterwards to see if this is something you want to get back into. And that's how it started. It started with just taking some time away from it because I was really just
overwhelmed.
I was overwhelmed at some point. I'm very happy social media was not.
Yeah, because at that time, it's a totally different ball game right now.
Now sometimes I think a bit about it. I'm like, whew, thank God, because it was wild. I still remember that day very clearly. I remember just the crowd. I'm like, yeah. So that's how it started. That's how it kind of stopped. And then it was just school, reading, trying to, basic every other kid, trying to figure out what you do with yourself. I had all sorts of dreams. I wanted to work at NASA.
And you lived in Nigeria?
Yeah. So again, I feel like I was a bit disconnected. Maybe I was in this bubble, to be fair. Because I would ask a lot of questions. And what my dad would do then was, if he knew anybody who was remotely involved with that, he would just take me to the person and be like, look, I'm giving you this kid for a day. He has 1 million questions about the things you do.
Right.
And so that's it. I spent a lot of time around interesting people, just asking them. And somehow they indulged me. I don't know why. Maybe some of them are my dad's friends. They really did indulge me. So I would ask a ton of things. I would spend times in factories because I was obsessed with manufacturing at some point. How do these things get made? On advertising sets, just with a bunch of very random set of people learning all sorts of things. And so there was the thing wanting to work at NASA because I'm still a space fanboy. That part is still there. I wanted to be like a physicist at some point. I thought I was going to be a nuclear physicist. Then I wanted to get in the army. So
there's a lot of dreams.
Yeah, so you can tell I'm already a bit of a dreamer. So there's a lot of dreams that I've been playing around. And then you get to the thing where you have to go to uni and you have to figure out, so what do I do with my career now?
So what did you study in uni?
You should guess. I always ask people to guess this one because they never really get it. Take the wildest guess, considering all the things I've said to you.
Microbiology. No. That's very different. Electrical engineering.
No. So it wasn't engineering.
Mathematics.
No, I didn't do any of those things. So
government.
I'd gone from being in the sciences, and I had the whole argument with my mom about what you need to go to first. There was that whole conversation, and me wanting to get out of home. I'd never really been away from home. I'd always been, just sheltered like that. And so I ended up going to Abuja to study public administration.
Oh, so I was getting closer when I said government.
That's why I said answer. Studied public administration. One of the weirdest things.
That's a very far place for NASA, though.
Yeah, but it was just weird because I got in still not knowing what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
But this was an excuse to be out of home. I was in school, so you can't tell me I'm not in school. But I was not in the house. And I said to myself, look, man, I don't want a first class. I don't want this 2-1. I just want something 2-2 so that nobody stresses my life. Literally, I said that from almost day one. Like, guys, I'm here to do the barest minimum and get out
Just
of
get
here.
the certificate.
Just get the certificate. Then go and figure out what's going to happen next. And thankfully, I was able to do that. But it was weird for people who knew me then because they were like, Apita, you're super smart, but why are you not 2-1? I'm like, guys, I'm just trying to chill. I just want to cool off. So that happened, and then I left that. And you go through that path, I think most people do, where you leave uni and what happens next?
Yeah.
I remember being terrified on the day I wrote my final exams, just thinking, shit.
No more hiding.
There's no hiding at this point. And I think my dad was ill at the time, or I'd just gotten ill. So I didn't have my usual person that I'll call and be like, yo, how far? And I'll call this person for me.
Right.
So it was very confusing to kind of be thrust out like that on your own. And somehow people are expecting you to make decisions about your life. I'm like, guys, what am I supposed to decide? I mean, I left uni, I think I was about 20 or just barely turned 20. Like, what am I supposed to decide? I don't. I'd say those years were probably some of the most interesting years in my life because there was a lot of waddling and, trying a bunch of random stuff, not trying things for a while, failing at a lot of things, and then eventually finding myself where I'm at. It's kind of nice.
Okay, so let's talk about where you're at now. How did you guys go from meeting at the place for food and say, you know what, let's build a whole company 2 years later?
I think me and Michael first always knew we were going to try to do some work together in whatever form. We didn't know how or when it would happen. We just kind of felt like we're that aligned, we're going to try to do something together. Eventually, Michael and Justin, to their credit, wanted to start, try to start Field. They had started the process, and then Michael calls me up and like, dude, we want to do this thing. And we want you to, join us to do this together. We had to do a deal as well because I had started working, and so in that period, but I had a thing where, which is why some people blame say Gen Z is just up and leave jobs. I don't know if it's just them.
Because we'll be doing it too.
That at the time, if I'm not feeling what is happening today, I'm not coming back tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're not going to see me. And somehow I've gotten away with doing a bit of that. And so we had an agreement. He and I had to agree, like, dude, we're going to do this for 4 years. We're going to at least agree to commit 4 years to it first.
Right.
And it was the first time I had committed to doing anything long term. I was the classic short-term guy. Do it. If it's not giving, you dip. You find something else. And so even that in itself was scary because it's the usual thing. Maybe family arranges one government gig for you and you're like, no. Like, who is this guy? What do you think you're doing? You're starting a company. What do you know about starting a company? It was that, tech was, I don't think that this was about 2015. It wasn't in a way as developed and established and popular as it is now. There's a couple of people starting out at the time, but it wasn't like now. So it was like, what do you know about starting a company? You have a string of small field businesses.
It's a string of small.
Yeah, God. They have a long list. So that's how we started. I don't know. Sometimes I ask myself, why does anybody want to start a company? I don't think it's glamorous. I think it's a lot of work. You need to be willing to put yourself to get beaten consistently for a while.
Yeah.
And again, it was helpful being young because didn't know better, didn't know what else to be doing anyway, so it felt like a good thing. But I have a flaw. When I like things or I commit to things, I just dive in head first. I'll figure out things as I go. And so in my usual fashion, I just head first. And that's how I started.
And so what exactly is field detergent?
Sweet. A lot of people get confused. If my mother watches this, she'll be like, yeah, I need to figure this out. Field is primarily a supply chain technology company.
Supply chain technology. Okay.
We build systems that helps you figure out how things move, where things are, and how to allocate things better. It's boring stuff, but it's the stuff that keeps the world moving. Yeah, see, nice line. That's a nice tagline.
Yeah.
So I think one of the good things, which is weird, one of the good things about COVID was it kind of made a lot of people realize how important supply chain was.
Right.
Everything you see has a supply chain. The parts have supply chains, and so that's what we do with those supply chain systems. But we then made a decision, which we questioned at some point, was to do that in the healthcare space.
And why was that?
Because Michael and Justin had prior experience doing some work in healthcare space, so we're like, look, we know a few people here. We know some of the problems here.
Place to start.
It's an easier place to start. And so that's how it started off, building things in the supply chain.
But you guys stuck to healthcare. Was there a reason? Because starting is one thing, but why did you, 6 years later, why are you guys still focusing on healthcare sector?
So there was a chance to do something in agriculture. This was about early 2017. Between 2016 getting into 2017, there was a chance to do something in agriculture. We had done, so I spent 1 year of my life working on tomato. Look, I don't joke. I worked on the tomato because a group approached us, some massive NGO, like, oh, you guys understand supply chain. You guys have a sense of cold chain. Can you figure out the tomato value chain? And if you know anything about tomato, it's temperature control, and you need to know how to move it effectively so that the prices in Lagos are cheaper, don't get too expensive from where you produce it in Kano or Kaduna.
Right.
So I spent about a full year, give or take, just working on that value chain, understanding it. So with a team of people, I had this colleague, Tom. We went to the Dangote factory in Kaduna. We went to in Kano. Went to the production sites in Kano. We did all of those things. And then it turns out the group that had made us do all of those work, they were supposed to then fund us to spin off a product to do it. And so we had done this work. We had a product. In fact, I know the name of that product. We had it ready. And they said, we don't have the money now. Yeah. It was one of those times where you look at yourself like, am I being a mug? I just spent a lot of time working on this. So we had to make a decision. We could either stay in health. We had some work going there, very small money. We knew people. We could stay there, focus there, or we could take that money and go
Do the
agric thing. So we had to. So that was when we decided to stay in health, which then spun off our second product. So Field essentially has two products in Field.
Okay.
There's Field Supply, which is a supply chain as service tool. Large-scale supply chains. The Nigerian government uses it to manage a large part of its supply chain in the public healthcare sector. And then there's Shelf Life. Shelf Life is basically a consignment service that we provide to pharmacies, drug shops, hospitals, insurance. So making that decision kept us in health. We could easily have been working in agriculture at the time.
Right.
Hey fam, so here's a short story. When I was moving to the UK, I thought I was moving to Nigeria. Has not been to me for a very long time, so I did not renew my rent, gave out all my furniture, even cleared out my bank account. But I realized also long after that I was really playing myself. I mean, I have way too many ties to Nigeria to just think that I will just up and just go like that. So I'm having to visit more often for work or to see family, or I have clients in Nigeria that need to pay me naira. It's kind of stressful juggling both, but I'm beginning to like it, especially the part about managing my finances in both countries, because my UK income I then can use it to sort out my UK bills, and when the expenses arise in naira in Nigeria, I can use the money I have in naira to either send to family, or even like spend when I'm in Lagos so that I don't have to like exchange money. For instance, a friend of mine in Canada needed money a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, I don't have money in pounds to share, but I had money in naira. So I used AfriChange, which is a remittance product that facilitates money transfer between the Canada and Nigeria corridor. I used AfriChange to send money from my naira account to his Canadian bank account, and when he was ready to refund me, my friend sent me money from his Canadian bank account back to my naira account with the same AfriChange app. AfriChange is available as a website, a web app, so you can sign up and send money online, or you can also download the app on iOS and Play Store. And it's really good. Best rate, fast speed, good customer service. Anyway, so now people ask me, please, where do you live? I'm like, you know what? I think I actually shuffle both Lagos and London. Stressful, but I'm loving it. Anyways, end of story. Back to the video.
But was there something, because I mean at that time you had done a full year work saying, okay, we had this product, we could actually move them. What was it about the health that still said, you know, this is still the path that we want to focus on as against this new venture that we wanted to do?
It was more of adjacencies, and it was more of figuring that it was closer to what we're doing. To be fair, that was perhaps the strongest reason. I think just to think about, we haven't gone back to think about this.
You just been running things.
I need to text Michael, but it was about, I remember us having a conversation around we could either stay or we could get into that, and we kind of stopped.
That makes sense. And so between you, Peter, and you, Michael, and Justin, how do you guys divide your responsibilities? Okay. And you mentioned that Justin and Michael are the healthcare guys. Why did they bring you in? How have you guys sort of like built?
Interesting question. I should probably ask them. No, I think sometimes sometimes people think I'm good at some stuff. I like problems. That's the easiest way to describe myself. I really like problems. I'm the person who, since I walked in here, I've seen those cables that are intertwined. I just want to sit and untangle all of them. It's crazy, but I really enjoy doing things like that. So Michael day-to-day, Michael is the CEO, I run the growth team, which means I manage sales, marketing,
right,
BD and things like that. Justin is our CTO, he leads the engineering, design and product management team. Right. So Michael primarily run finance operations. So that's how we split, kind of split functions.
Yeah, so you lead growth, marketing, sales, anything to bring the money in, basically.
Yeah.
That makes sense. What would you say has been the biggest lesson you've learned in the last almost 7 years, right?
It takes time. No, to be fair, I mean, I had dreams of, selling in 2 years and just putting it on. I think things are often harder than they seem, or often just hard. If you estimate that it would take 6 months to do, it'll probably take longer. And curbing some of my youthful exuberance in thinking, I could do anything. I just realized, and learning to focus on the things that I was really good at, and not try to do a lot of things that I wasn't so good at. Yeah. I think those have been the things for me.
And what are you most proud of? Brag. Feel free.
Yeah. What am I most proud of? I'm super proud of the fact that we've built something literally from nothing. I think that's one of the most rewarding things about starting a business. It's like you create a thing out of the ether. A couple of years ago, there was no field intelligence, there was no shelf life, there was no business like that. Nobody did the things we did. You know, field right now, there's like 6 HLMIS solution providers in the world, accredited by the UN system. Field is one of them. Shelf life runs the largest network of distributed pharmacies on the continent. Just being able to be like, yeah.
That's my shit.
You know, yeah, that kind of thing. It feels really good. But also, I think this is going to make me sound like an aspire guy, but on another side of it, I think that a piece that I really like is being able to find people, find sharp people, find talented people, and just help give an opportunity for them to do the things. Yeah, that part I really enjoy.
That makes sense. So, I mean, we've asked like what you're most proud of, right? The lessons you've learned. What has been the biggest challenge? It's plenty.
Let me see. Realizing that starting a business that you want to be successful doesn't mean you're going to have money soon. It kind of is counterintuitive in a weird way. Because you think that you start a business, maybe you raise some venture funding.
Yeah.
You think that you're just going to be balling. But you then have to realize that if you are trying to start a business that you expect to be successful, company money is not your money. So the company might be great. So now even when we announce anything and people are hailing me, I'm like, guys, please, that is field money. Don't assume in any way, shape or form that it's Peter money. I think realizing that and learning that and realizing that you had to, at least personally, I had to play a fairly long-term game. And just being certain, because it can be hard. You know, you see your friends, people you know, supposedly balling out, and you're thinking, hey, the company has bar now. You can just, you can do something like this now. But you have to learn to, keep those things in check and just, what am I trying to achieve? Has been hard.
That's very honest, and I really dig that. What was the effect of COVID-19 on how field intelligence is grown?
I think since we started the company, that quarter, it was Q2 2020. I know it very well. It was the worst quarter for us. It was probably the worst quarter in my life since we started the company. And I'll give you a couple reasons. One, so at that time we had just raised venture funding. We closed the funding in either February or early March.
What round was that?
2020. That was our first institutional raise.
Right.
It had been self-funded before because we're profitable, with field supply. That was a profitable business almost from the jump.
Right.
So we started reinvesting that into shelf life.
Right.
Then we raised that.
How much did you guys raise?
We raised 3.7 million. And then COVID happened. So we had just raised money. We had started building out a more developed sales team. And then lockdowns. Can't go and talk to anybody. So the entire playbook that we had run, the entire playbook that we had built, that we had just figured out for like 2 years plus, done. We couldn't do anything with it. And we had to rethink, re-architect, rebuild just the entire way we thought about, at least for my team and my people directly, how we went about customer acquisition. How do you think about reaching customers? Because our customers are a bit weird and it's kind of niche and there's all sorts of regulations. And so we had this whole outbound sales engine that was built out, that was great, that was just actually starting to go, that we had to turn off and flip.
Right.
It was tough. It was tough. It was. I remember being in my house just thinking like, shit, is this how this thing ends?
Well.
Because, and then there was the added pressure of having just raised venture money. Because I kept thinking to myself, Jesus, Peter, you just collected people's money. What is going on? What are you going to do? And so figuring that part out, and then just rapidly, and that's one of the things I'm most proud of the team for, the speed with which we learned, the speed with which we executed, even in that period, was great. We have a bit of a bad habit at the company of not stopping to celebrate certain things. We need to fix that, and we say this regularly. I don't know how, but
I'm saying it again now.
Saying it again. I'll remind myself. It's a bit of a bad habit. We just do it and keep doing. But the speed with which we got around those things and learned and changed processes, and now we run an inbound engine, we run an outbound engine, which is pretty interesting.
Was there any other good thing except just knowing that you guys could iterate really fast that came out of COVID-19?
What are the other good things that came out of COVID-19?
Maybe new deals, new product lines, anything at all?
There was some interest. I think on a personal level, it was learning to pay more attention to my mental health. Because then it was in your face, it was in front of you. You had to deal with yourself. I used to tell my friends, I just moved to a new apartment at the time. I hadn't spent that much time because I was traveling almost every other week. I hadn't spent 15 days in a stretch in this apartment I just moved into. So it was having to deal with yourself. So on the personal level, yes, and thinking about your mental health, thinking about your people, those things were good. On the company side, I think it was just, we kind of came together to just push it through. And so yes, those were some of the good things I'll say. There's probably others, I can't think of them off the top of my head.
That makes sense. I mean, so we're thinking about supply chain, and I'm wondering, what kind of people do you hire? What kind of roles do you hire for? Because, I mean, like you said, it's boring, so I'm wondering, like...
So it's a very interesting question. Supply chain to be in itself is a lot of math and engineering problems. It's a, how do I get this thing that is here to this person who needs it? How many do I need to keep? Or where do I pre-position it so it gets here in this time? A lot of systems thinking around things like that. So it's a lot of math, engineering things. But we hire all sorts of people. We hire pharmacists, we hire software engineers, we hire designers, we hire hire mathematicians, we hire economists, we hire all sorts
so
of
they're
people.
actually people that learn X and Y and Z and actually use it for real.
There's those weirdos. There are those weirdos. So, I mean, Justin, our CTO, has like a PhD in math. Yeah, he's one of those. Yeah, he's pretty weird like that.
Okay. Yeah. Stay in school, folks. Do your DYDX.
But to be fair, like, there's people that we've spoken to who are like industrial engineers, and I think those guys are superhuman. It doesn't have, when it's at a certain point, I can keep up to a certain point. After a while, I'm like, oh, Benny.
Like, take me back to marketing and
bro, I don't want to be here. But so we just hire a very widespread range of people. Yeah, it's not limited to people who live, breathe, sleep, supply chain and things like that.
That makes sense. Let's take it back to just your upbringing. You mentioned that when you were growing up, it was very easy for your dad to, connect to this person, connect to that person, and then when you're graduating, your dad started falling ill, and it wasn't easy for you to then get connection. So, what aside? Because so the question is this: what effect or influence did your dad have on you, like when he was alive, and what influence did his death have on you now as well?
I would say alive, I probably did not recognize it so much when I had it in front of me. Being as truthful as possible. So I just thought, like, yeah, this is my guy. This is
Yeah.
I find that a lot of times since he died, I find saying to myself, do you think I'd have been proud of you for this thing? So it's kind of weird like that. I don't know how to answer that properly, but that's what it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any core principles that you live by? It's okay to say no.
Yeah, I'm thinking there's one I have just started. I think I started sometime last year. It's called radical acceptance. It's accepting things for what they are and not trying to fight it. It doesn't mean you don't try to change things, but you first have to accept it, that this is what it is. So this is wearing a white shirt. I'm not trying to say what if it's grey. No, this is what it is. So there's that part. There's something around mimetic theory, René Girard, that I've been doing a lot of reading around mimetic theory and René Girard. So yeah, I'd say probably radical acceptance is probably the closest one. Or just, look, life is too serious.
Just cool enjoy.
It's very important to cool off. Yeah, that part.
I like that one.
Yeah.
My last question. When you're bragging, you mentioned something about Finland being one of the 6 something in the continent. If you could repeat that for me. In the world.
Yeah.
Sorry, no vex. So in the world, if you could sort of repeat that, but also tell me about what it meant to get like a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and all that, prestigious stuff.
So what that is so if you build a tool that the UN system has to accredit that can be used globally, it goes through a very rigorous review process. And so Field Supply went through that process, and then the outcome of that is, okay, the UN system, if we had to do anything globally, we're going
UN being United Nations.
Yes, we're going to pre-qualify these things to say any country in the world, these things meet all the standards that we think it should have. And to have a small company headquartered in Abuja, that we started, from just get through all of those qualification process, and then get pre-qualified such that there's just 6 of us globally. There's probably just us or maybe one other company trying to operate on the continent. Felt like it was some very much needed validation as to, okay, you guys, you might know this thing. And in terms of getting the grant funding from the Gates Foundation, I remember in that moment, either me and Michael either did a high five or we teased each other about going to buy ourselves a Rolexes or something. But it was something around as well, also being about validation. I think that, a lot of times we like to think that external validation, you shouldn't base your life around external validation, but some validation is good, some validation is needed. You need something to tell you directionally, I'm on the right path. So that's what those two things felt like.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how do you keep your co-founder relationship going? It's been almost 7 years now. Are you guys still guys?
We're guys. I think that's look. So people who know us closely say me and Michael sometimes are like an old couple. Half the time, look, I can check my phone now. The odds are that Michael has WhatsApp is very high. See, he actually hasn't WhatsApp me. Yeah.
Maybe in a few minutes.
Maybe in a few minutes. But he and I are almost constantly talking. But we are actually friends. So we were friends for a couple of years before the company started. We are actually friends. Now, we also have a couple of things that we've had to learn. There's the whole thing that Amazon made popular, which is disagree but commit, which is where I bring an idea, I may not agree with it, but if I can logically defend it and explain it, you can disagree, but you commit towards executing.
So disagree but commit.
Yeah, disagree but commit. So you disagree, but you commit to executing it and seeing what happens. We have very ferocious debates and arguments where everybody's there for the next 30 minutes, everybody's like, stay on your lane, and that kind of thing. But we can't come out of it. We still say, and this is a bit of my bragging right, the longest thread we have in the company Slack, since we started in November 2015, I think was in 2018, where me and Michael were debating pricing strategy. It probably went on for maybe 48 hours. At some point, this thing where two people are just going at it, nobody else. Everybody's just like,
when you are done,
let's leave these two people. That's what it is. And sometimes in meetings, sometimes when Michael and Justin or the other way around, they're arguing about stuff. That's what it is. People just keep quiet, like, yeah, these guys are at it. So I think we're genuinely friends. That's what it is. I can't tell you that there's been any other secrets. I can't tell you that we don't have fights or disagreements. No,
but still friends.
Yeah.
And how do you guys build your teams? Are they like certain principles or values that you use? Because when you talked earlier about just navigating COVID-19 and just your team being able to like iterate really fast, and I'm wondering, okay, how do you hire these really awesome people and how do you like keep them going, especially in a time that was as tough as that?
I think for me personally and the teams that I run, a few things are important, both in hiring and in managing them. In hiring, obviously you look for the typical things, smart people, curious people, people are teachable. I look for those things. But I have a few principles within the team that we all have to follow. It's like there's open communication. We'll talk about everything. There's a habit that teams tend to want to hide bad news. That will absolutely not fly in a pizza team. We'll talk about it, we'll figure it out. So there's communication, there's transparency. They sound very cliched. But they go a long way in letting everyone know who joins the team. Like, look, this is how we operate here. Something has gone wrong. Fine, come here, let's talk about it. Don't try to hide it because we'll find out about it eventually. And maybe more things have gotten bad as a result of that. There's that. But I think hiring is hard. I can't tell you I have a magic bullet. I spend so much time hiring. I'm going to get into another spell of it. And if I could stop hiring, I would love it. But it's hard. But at the same time, I like meeting sharp people who want to do good work. So you have to, I just try to find a balance to see, can we provide the environment for these people to thrive? That's what it is for me.
Amazing. And my final question, what's the next 7 years like?
7 years.
One, do you still think that you guys will be doing this in 7 years? Do you think you will be doing this in 7 years?
I don't know, to be fair. But I'm saying that on the basis of certain conversations that I know. So a couple of things could happen. We could have sold the company.
And you can now just cool off.
That's the problem. I like work. That's the problem. You see, I want to cool off. But I know myself. After a short while, in fact, not even after a short while, I can show you a long list of things on this phone. And I was like, if I had the time, I'll probably build that. I was like, come on, guy. So there's probably that, maybe an exit with that. And I would take some time off, go to culinary school. Very interesting. Okay. For myself. But it would probably either still be working at Field, doing similar things that we're doing. If that is not the case, probably building another company. Also investing in film.
I was gonna ask, will you take a role?
I would. Some people will hold me accountable to this if they say it, but I would if I found something I liked. Yeah.
Would you do that while doing field? Like we act like, I like this role, I like this role.
If I can figure out the timing, field takes a lot of my life right now. So if I can figure out a way to work around timing and things, yeah, I could.
That's interesting. I thought the answer was going to be no.
I like film so much. It's a part of my life that I really, really, really like.
Yeah, you really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
That makes sense. My last question. Is there any question you wanted me to ask that I didn't?
What did I want you to ask? I didn't ask.
Or is it something that you would want to say, but I mean, our conversation just didn't go that way?
Let me think. I think we've had a very decent conversation. We've spoken a lot. Yeah, wow.
He said it's wow, like you're not the one in the conversation.
Yeah, but it was a good conversation. To be fair, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. No, okay, I figured out one. What has been your favorite episode so far? You have to say this.
No, I didn't say question to ask me. I said
not to
question
ask
I
you.
would have asked you.
Oh, no, but you have to answer this one now. When you answer, I'll tell you. Yes. Yeah.
I don't have a favorite episode.
Come on, I know
It's
this
like
answer.
it's like
You
when you
know
ask
this
it's like when you
answer
ask
now.
parents who's your favorite kids. They can never
In
give
their
it.
heart of hearts, they
And in
have
my heart
one.
of hearts.
So you'll tell me off
I
camera.
will know,
You
but
tell me off camera.
nah.
You tell me. If you stop recording, you tell me.
No.
I can see you think of it. You are just, it's there in your head.
But no, the honest truth is I don't have one favorite.
Okay, so I have another question after this.
I have a couple of favorites, and for many different reasons. But the thing is, every interview is different. Like, even if they're building in the same industry or their story, no story is even similar. So there's always like, wow, I didn't know this about this person, or I didn't know this about how they built their company.
Yeah.
And that's really what's important to me, right? So I'm doing these interviews because of what I'm learning about people and their approach to life, and because it's always diverse. I can't just pick one that's like. So there's some that stick, but.
This is giving me
Pretty much.
lamba. Okay. I mean, fair. So I think the other thing would be, why did you decide to start this? I know you said you're learning from people, but why? What was your thing?
I mean, starting it wasn't my idea. I say this all the time. It was very random. Like you meet your co-founders. I was randomly shooting YouTube videos because I like to teach. And then somebody said, come and interview me. Atsu or Bitsika. And I remember texting him. I was like, I don't do interviews of people. And then I thought about it for 2 days, and I spoke with Joyce. And I'm like, you know what? Let's try it out.
Yeah.
And then we tried it. And right in that interview, we said we're going to call this Founders Connect. And then I saw, I think, Nadaya a few days after. And I'm like, no, Nadaya, I'm interviewing founders now. And then he agreed. And that just became a thing. But then after doing a few, then I realized nobody's doing this. Like, nobody's telling stories of founders like this.
Yeah.
And I mean, you see, I can Google field intelligence and I'll see all the accolades, how much you guys have raised. But I might not see a lot of stories about you like I just learned. And I'm like, I think I want to just keep doing this because nobody's telling this kind of stories about the founders in Africa. And I think that deserves to be told. So now I'm here, 60 videos.
Wow, you see life. Yes. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you for interviewing me after my interview with you. There are very few people that end up getting to do that, so thank you for being one of these. But it's been a pleasure just like learning from you and seeing your really cool vibes. Like I think when people hear Google Peter Bunor Jr., they're like, oh, he was a child doctor, and they see you doing what you're doing now in supply chain. I come off as, just very serious, just building life. Yeah, I thought it was going to be like, and then you're still really cool and really good vibes, and I think that's great. And I can imagine how awesome it would be, like being a co-founder or just being someone that works in your company. So that's really great. It's been nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Shop knuckle. Amazing. And thank you guys for watching this video to the end. Make sure you like, subscribe, I take up beg you. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.